The She's Crafty podcast is sponsored by Barbacoa Apparel. Barbacoa Apparel is a San Antonio-based independent clothing line that caters to Texans and Texans at heart. To buy your Barbacoa Apparel and to find out which events they'll be at next, go to barbacoaapparel.com. You're listening to the She's Crafty podcast, a comedy and craft beer podcast taped in San Antonio, Texas, home of the Alamo, breakfast tacos, and the best craft beer in the Lone Star State.
Shut up and sit down.
Super excited because we're here with the beloved host of Interbrews, Josh Stewart, otherwise known as Josh Simpson sometimes.
Drunk Josh Simpson?
Drunk Josh Simpson.
Beloved?
Yeah, who doesn't love you?
I'm not sure. I'm sure there's a lot of people. If you're asking in general.
No, I think generally speaking, everybody fucking loves you.
Oh, all right, I'll take it. Cool.
How many episodes are you now? You're rolling like what, 350 episodes deep or something?
Yeah. Well, when so I changed it up a bit. I went from the hour-long episodes now, and then I went to two 30-minute, kind of chopping each episode into two, so that automatically doubled my number since the beginning of the year. Now I think I'm going to start doing 6 10-minute episodes. So yeah, I will be at 1,020 by the end of next week.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy.
No, same amount of content, just chopping it up.
Just chopped up. So you did take a little break, right?
I did. It's funny that we talk about taking a break because the break, you and the rest of our cohorts that met at Texas Homebrewers and Katie when you came to town, kind of, that was the last recording session that we did. And then I was like, I just need a break.
You're like, this is enough. I've had enough.
Maybe. I don't know if that induced. I think it was just the build up and then the holidays and then everything. And I was just like, ugh, I just unplug and then plug back in when it was time. But our Christmas episode will be out next week. I chopped those into two. So Merry Christmas, everybody, just in time for May. I'm
so excited because I don't remember any of it.
It's pretty entertaining.
Is it?
Yeah. It's one of my... some episodes you do, and you just kind of... You do them, you get them out, and then it's like... You move on to the next... It's on to the next thing. But some you listen to... And maybe it's because it's been a while since I've listened to them, so maybe I should go back and listen to more of my episodes. But there's certain guests and certain people that kind of meld well on the show, and that's one of them where it was entertaining to listen to, almost as a third party this far out.
Well, that's awesome. I can't wait to hear it again after living it.
Yeah, how's Brisket?
Brisket is good. She's still alive, so that's good. Her name changes every day. So I think right now her name's Ravioli, maybe.
Oh.
Or Tortellini. I can't remember. Whatever we ate last that we gave her. That's normally how her name changes.
Oh. So
yeah.
Is Brisket like her given name, on her?
Brisket is the name that my boyfriend Jason uses when people ask what's her name.
Okay, and then that's on the record at the vet.
I don't know what's on the record. We're not that deep into the relationship where I've gone to the vet and looked at her. I don't know what's on the vet's records, but he calls her Bub. That's her name is Bub or Bubba,
which always makes a lady feel good.
Yeah, who doesn't want to be called exactly the same name as you call some big fat guy at a Ford F-250? I don't know. It
does invoke overalls and demolition derbies.
Yes.
And basically, half the guys in my graduating high school class. So
yeah, there you go. Mine too. Well, kind of. Yes.
I was gonna say, if they graduated.
If they made it that far.
Right. If they were on track to graduate the same year I graduated, then yes.
Yes, and speaking of school, you and I have something in common that I am super fucking excited about because this never happens. I never meet anyone who also was a band nerd, although I understand that you were a band nerd in high school, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we both played the French horn, which honestly, it's very rare to find somebody who also played the French horn, and I'll tell you why. It's the hardest instrument to play.
It's true. Well, we say that. Is it?
That's what we were told, right?
Well, okay, so I came at it from a different angle. Let's get some deep band nerd going on right here. I started on the trumpet and beginning band. That was in 7th grade, right?
Okay.
And so I had a couple of friends that were really, really good kind of out of the gate with the trumpet. My friend Mark, who could have been a professional, musician or whatever. He just took to it naturally. And I was like, I'm not going to be that good. I was like 3rd, 4th chair, having fun or whatever. But then I had to listen to the French horns, like the people that started with the French horns. And they were awful. They were awful. I was like, I can play that better than they can. And so, like, after beginning band, I went to our band director. I guess I can call him David Leonard now, but Mr. Leonard. Anyway, he was a cool dude, but I was like, no, he was cool. Like a musician, he was cool. Just kind of had this cool, like, kind of jazz kind of, hey, man, yeah.
Oh, yeah, like he listened to, he probably had a lot of records and vinyl and...
Yeah.
Did he smoke cigarettes or?
I think he did, but had quit. We're talking like 90s, that whole anti-smoking deal or whatever. But he played with Dizzy Gillespie once.
Whoa.
Yeah, obviously before he died. But
yeah.
But that was kind of one of his cool stories. Like he played with some big people. But I was like, hey, you can put me back in beginning band for another year, and I'll play French horn because that seems, that's kind of my angle, right? And that's kind of been my philosophy with life. Is like, I could do the thing that everybody's doing and be okay at it, or I could do this obscure little thing over here and be
the best at it.
Yeah, exactly. Or at least get respect from it. And so that's how I entered into the French horn. It's like, nah, we'll just come in. I'll give you a couple lessons. You'll be fine.
That's really funny that you thought you would get respect from playing the French horn, because the reason I stopped band and played the French horn was because I thought I would never get laid, like ever. Like nobody's ever going to ask me out in high school if I'm carrying.
That was the specific reason.
No, but it was like that, and like because I didn't play it into high school. I went on a dance team in high school because I didn't like the band culture. Was not my thing, and I'm just like more of an outgoing person, and I just like it wasn't for me. Although my parents were really, really upset because I dominated at the French horn.
Yeah, you said you went to state.
I did, and I was first chair, and my dad thought for sure I was going to be like in the Houston Symphony, and like it was a big deal when I said I didn't want to do it anymore. But I just hated it so much, like the cleaning of the spit and carrying that fucking case everywhere, and that stupid dress I had to wear, and like it was just horrible. And I just like everything I do though, like I go hard, like if I'm gonna play the French horn, I'm gonna fucking kick your ass at it. I had one competitor, his name was Samir. And he was just like my driving force all through junior high to like practice every day because there's no way I was going to let him beat me.
Now, junior high was more into that whole competition thing. High school, so when I got into high school, we were 10th, 11th, 12th for high school. And so I played football in junior high. And then in high school, I was just like, meh, it's not, I don't really do the whole team thing. I'm kind of a loner, which maybe that's why music appealed, because I could do it on my own, and even though you're in a group in the band, you're still like, I'm shining because I'm first chair French horn, yada, 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 right? I'm kind of the bad boy of the band, that cool band guy. At least that's how I like to remember myself. Didn't
you feel like the percussion people were like the badasses? And I was like, God, they never talked to me.
No. You know what? We had... Now, okay, Jonesboro was a little bit different because, one, it's a dry county, so you're limited on options. Two, I was real big into our church as well in the youth group, and so anything outside of that was a little bit rebellious. Yeah, was a little more edgy. and then we also had a group of people in our band, which there's been a lot of really good musicians that came out of that, that graduated with me in those years around when I was in there. That we had a lot of time, and we got We flew under the radar a lot because on Friday nights after the football games, there was the group that went out partying and drinking and stuff, and that people were watching them the whole time. Nobody suspected like this group of band kids, because there were the nerdy band kids that went home or did what we didn't hang out with them, but like a lot of woodwind players and weird, flutes and bassoons and things like that. But we would go out and we would raise hell, as much as you can, and like climb on top of buildings and break into the new Walmart Supercenter that's not open yet, and have races with the scissor lifts and stuff like that.
I mean, that must be like a small town or like a thing, because I remember when we were young, because there wasn't a lot to do. Like Katy wasn't so close to Houston when I was young. We had to drive to go, and we didn't have cars. But we would break into like abandoned houses, and just hang out. We weren't doing anything bad in there. We were just hanging out. It was just like novel that it was open and we could walk it or whatever.
Right. Yeah. That was kind of the thing. If it was there to be done, let's do it.
And I'm taking my French horn with me.
No, we didn't practice.
Oh, okay. I practiced all the fucking time. It's all I did was practice.
You got burnt out. That's the problem.
Maybe that's kind of like the theme for my life, I think.
Yeah, you got to. Yeah, that's the thing. You got to take some time away.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I've figured out with this podcast. Swinging it all the way back around, was that I can drive real hard, but what am I really driving towards?
Right.
It was kind of defeating the purpose of. I just want to make a good show that I enjoy doing, and I love talking to the people I go talk to, like when I talk to you or when I talk to, that's the cool thing about technology, is opened up a lot. But also when I go to these, breweries, whether it's the third time at Southern Star, which will be up, what's today's date? Whatever this week is, there'll be a couple episodes from their new tap room, their new brewery up in Conroe. Yeah. And then, just this past, week, it was Scott Metzger from Freetail there in San Antonio. Actually, the episode I posted last night.
Yes. Can we talk about that for just a second, please?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you mind? So I listened to it last night. I listened to both, right?
Okay.
And I listen to every week of your podcast, by the way.
Wow. Thanks.
You're welcome. That's what friends do, and fans.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say something real fast, because I heard Scott on your show call out She's Crafty for not having him on. And I just want to say, first of all, that you have 4 times as many episodes as we do, which is probably why he's been on a few times already.
4.
And we scheduled him to have him on our second episode, and he canceled and sent somebody as a replacement.
Well, he's kind of a big deal.
Well, okay. But what I'm saying is that we tried, and I think it's because we told him he was going to have to dance burlesque for that episode, and maybe he didn't want to do it. I don't know. But he sent Jason in his place, and Jason was amazing, and it was great, and we had a great time. But I was like, hey, man, I scheduled you, and you didn't come. I'm just saying.
I think, Scott, knowing Scott as well as I do, having had him on so many times.
Has he ever canceled on you, though? Has he ever canceled on you, John?
No. He actually calls me on his way to Houston and is like, a couple weeks before, just to see if. Well, actually, he calls before he comes to Houston to say, hey, man, can we podcast? And I'm like, yeah, of course. You don't have to.
Of course.
Yeah, he said sometimes he'll send flowers and a case of beer, but
nice.
I'm like, this is too much. You just call me. Yeah.
Probably always Freetail beer, right?
Yeah, but I'll take it. Of course.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, it's not like he has to go buy it. He's got it. He probably, you think he bathes in Freetail beer?
Well, he does have a glow about him, so I would imagine.
You would think so, right?
Yeah, I would if I were him.
You go to Scott's house and you turn on the faucet and it's not even water. It's just Bata Hellas just comes out of the tap.
What, he washes his face with it?
He washes his face with it. He, anytime he offers anybody anything, it's just Freetail beer in an awesome fucking can. Yeah. That's what I imagine. Yeah,
I could see that. Yeah, that seems to make sense. But I was going to say the reason he probably had to, send a replacement is you said he had to dance burlesque. And knowing Scott, like I know Scott, it's probably that, not that he didn't want to dance burlesque or wouldn't dance burlesque. Just Scott dances burlesque when Scott wants to dance burlesque, and it has to, the moment has to present itself, I think, to him. He's kind of on that level of let the moment come to him. Don't force it.
Organically, he wants to just organically wear pasties. I feel like right now would be a really great time for me to shake my ass and put some pasties on. Right.
Now, if you were to go and somehow look in his back pocket, he's probably got a pasty in each back pocket just in case.
Oh,
right?
And it's a little Freetail bat. Probably.
Yeah, exactly.
All glittery.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or medium size. I don't know.
I don't know the size of his areola.
Yeah, his areola area. I don't know.
The circumference.
Yes. Something about pi or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, probably the kind of guy that would wait for the moment to come to him.
No, I get it. Well, I'm definitely, Scott, if you're listening to this right now, because I heard on Interbrews that you listen to the She's Crafty podcast.
Mm-hmm.
You are welcome to come to every single recording and sit at the table and be my co-host anytime you would like to. I would love for you to, and I would love to come to Freetail and record every day if you want me to. He's like the godfather of fucking San Antonio beer.
He is. Not like, he is.
He is. He's a big deal. He really is. I know we're joking about it, but he's the celebrity craft beer guy in San Antonio.
That's true. And the cool thing about, I don't know if you heard at the very end of the second round that we did, we just touched on like the history of Houston and San Antonio beer. And then you got the new San Antonio beer book. And, the history of both cities, it's pretty remarkable. So I think we're going to get into that next episode. So
oh, nice.
Yeah, that's one of those things that kind of old stuff kind of fascinates me.
We should do like a little San Antonio versus Houston showdown.
How would you like to?
Like basically, you and I will just get into a ring and just beat the shit out of each other until.
Oh,
you know
that
what
sounds.
I mean?
Oh, is that?
But
okay,
we can wear
cool.
like those big fat suits.
Okay.
So like, we won't actually hurt each other. It'll just be like a lot of bouncing off of each other.
Or is this going to be recorded for a podcast? Will it just be a bunch of like vinyl on vinyl or whatever the whole time?
We can YouTube it.
Okay.
Or whatever new streaming app you're using, that's what we'll use.
Okay. Yeah, I do have a bit of an issue.
You have a little bit of a addiction, I think, to streaming apps. But it's cool because it means that like no matter where you are at what time, I know exactly what you're doing.
It's true. The newest one I've been messing with, which I haven't really been able to use to its fullest potential. Where is that? Live It Now is an app. It's brand new, but it's set up for 360 cameras. And I don't have a 360 camera, but a friend of mine does.
Okay, explain the 360 camera thing to me because it seems like it would make me a little nauseous.
If you view it, there's two ways you can view it. One, just straight on your phone, and you use and what it does is it's a camera. It's basically 3 or 4 fisheye cameras, so you get a full 360 degree view of what's going on, but you have to move your finger around the screen to be able to see what's going on. So like with a podcast, if you stuck it in the middle of the table, you could hear everybody talking, but if you wanted to look at you instead of me, which, who would blame them, you could just spin it around and look at you, or look at the ceiling above us, or look at, everything going on around us if we were at a bar or something.
Interesting.
It is technology not quite there to make it really useful yet, but it's novel and neat.
I like that you're like on top of all this technology stuff though, because I'm not. Like I'm like, oh look, here's a microphone. Just talk in there, and we're gonna record this shit. And that's it. Yeah,
it is. I have considered doing another podcast. Like Interbrews is not my only podcast, and I haven't started a new one in a while. I've let a couple go away, but I'm thinking of starting a new one based on, newer technology and the people behind it and that sort of thing.
Do you find it daunting though? Like I do that a lot too, that I'm like, oh, I've got this great idea, but now that I'm so deep and she's crafty, it's hard for me to like get the motivation to start anything new. Yeah,
I would have, but the way that, when we go back to talking about when I took my time off and what I did differently, it wasn't just cutting up the shows. I also started batch recording. So
that's right, yeah.
So like the episodes I did, the one with Scott, or the two with Scott, the two with Southern Star that are coming out this week. Jason Naughty was part of that week. Alan from Brigadoon. I did those from my house via Ringer, which that's another technology thing. And I batched those all together in 1 week, and now I'm putting them out. So I just have to remember what date shows are coming out, and then not talk about dated stuff. But it allows me to put them all into 1 week, and then, for the rest of the month, I've got
free time.
Yeah, as long as I stay on top of stuff and the city doesn't flood and kids are out of school and that kind of thing. But
that's right. You guys are having serious flooding right now, right?
It's crazy. The kids are out of school today. They were out yesterday. I couldn't go to work yesterday. I'm trying to decide if I'm going to go today because we got more rain planned, or not planned, but forecasted. So, because I don't work right by my house, which is basically everybody else in Houston as well. But yeah, It was nuts. Like I think almost 2 feet in 24 hours. That
is crazy.
Yeah, it's absolutely nuts.
Yeah, I know Austin got hit pretty bad too, I heard, and then we got it bad, but obviously not as bad as you guys or Austin. But like yesterday in the morning, it was hard for me to get my kids to school. So getting your kids to school is one of those things where I'm like, listen, I will get a raft and like a canoe, whatever we need to get you to school.
Is that because you are so concerned of their education, or
it's a combination of like, because I think it's really funny because I go to parent-teacher conferences and the teachers are always like, we really appreciate that your kids are always on time and never absent. And I'm like, who wants their kids at home with them? Like, yeah, I want a vacation.
I'm the opposite. I'm like, oh, we're late for school. That's cool. It's just, you're in first and third grade.
Oh, yeah.
It's not.
You're kind of lackadaisical about it.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I can help you with that.
I love holidays. I like to sleep in. Mm-hmm. I like that. But I have a 14-year-old.
So they actually sleep in.
So she'll sleep all day.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And what is wrong with you? It's 3 p.m. and you're not out partying because you're home with me. I know you're not doing anything. But yeah, she'll sleep forever. And then she wakes up and she's still tired. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then I flash back to my childhood and I'm ugh, I remember my dad coming in and being if you're not up, you're wasting your day.
Yeah. Yeah. But were you really?
No, because I got up to do nothing.
Right. Just mope around the house, eat a Pop-Tart.
Eat a Pop-Tart, get on my bike and maybe ride down the street a little bit.
Maybe.
But you're a really good dad because you've got your kids in a lot of extracurricular activities, right?
We've got them in gymnastics and anything that happens where my wife she's the manager of Cypress Academy of Gymnastics. I'll give them a plug.
Oh.
So that is they basically were born there. She had to leave,
awesome.
go to the hospital, and come right back.
Yeah.
And the kids have been there ever since. But yeah, so they're there for that anyway. So we might as well stick them in classes.
Nice.
If it were up to me, and it was just me, I'd be let's watch some YouTube videos.
Yeah, when I was a kid, we really didn't have a lot of structured activities. We had to find our own way. You know what I mean? So when we got it, I got into junior high and I was in band, and then I wanted to dance. So I decided that I wanted to dance. So I kind of figured out where the classes were, and my mom just dropped me off or whatever, paid for it. So yeah, my kids, we do a little bit, but I don't like forcing them to do stuff.
Yeah.
Because then it's not fun.
Yeah, when I think back to my, when I was a kid too, the same thing. Parents got, put us in church youth group stuff because they were going to church anyway. And then band, you're going to school anyway, so just do that. We'll pay for the instrument, and then go on all the trips because that's easy.
Right.
And that was a big chunk of time. So after that, it was I 3 other friends that I hung out with, and that was all my time.
Yeah.
Not wasted on homework.
Well, why would you do that?
I don't know. Never did.
That's silly.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm glad that we got to reminisce about childhood and our common brass instrument. Because I never meet anybody that played the French horn, ever. And I don't know why I'm so excited about it.
Did you ever go to band camp?
Of course. I went 2 or 3 summers. I went to ours was at UT in Austin, which was super scandalous for Katy, Texas, to go to UT Austin band camp. Because everybody that I'm friends with now that I went to school with then, they all went to A&M or weird little, tiny little colleges. I'm probably the only one that actually went to the University of Texas.
Oh, you're that liberal,
my friends.
That artsy liberal.
Yeah, I couldn't wait. I could not wait. I was somebody just hand me a guitar and a joint and I'm happy. I'm Willie Nelson for the next 4 years. Yeah, no, but I never meet anybody that played the French horn. So yeah, band camp was awesome. Band camp was my first taste of not being with my parents and just run. There's still structure, right? Because your band director's there. And you have to be at all these different classes. I remember taking maybe a jazz class and a classical class, and then there was a concert at the end.
Yep. Did you have a band camp romance?
I wasn't cute when I was. No, nobody wanted to be romantic with me. No, I was awkward. I had frizzy hair. I didn't talk a lot. Yeah, no.
That's too bad.
Did you have a band camp romance?
Of course. Which time?
Well, how many band camps did you go to? 8 or something? No,
I went. Gosh, what did I do? I went 2 or 3 years. But the final year was my senior year, and they made me what was called a captain, basically. Oh, yeah. And so you went for the junior high week and then the senior high week. And the junior high week, you did nothing. You were kind of like the cool older kid that helped out some. Yeah. But there was a whole bunch of us. And so there was the girls and the guys. And of course you paired off. Everybody paired off with somebody. And so, yeah.
That's a weird age because that's when you start swapping and just experimenting with different, not experimenting in a sexual way, but just hanging out with different people all the time. You know what I mean? Oh, I'm going to hang out with this person for 45 minutes. And then you're I don't really like you. And then you kind of swap and go with somebody else. I remember those kinds of things happening, but not at band camp. Nobody wanted to. That was not happening.
Okay.
I remember being excited that I had the power to order a pizza.
That was pretty cool. And do it after, do it from the place that's open late.
Yeah, and my parents had given me money, right, to spend however I wanted to, and I could order my own pizza with my own toppings, and it got delivered to me, and I opened the door, and I paid for it, and it was my fucking pizza.
Yep, bacon cheeseburger pizza. Bring it on up.
It was crazy to me. Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then I thought, like, because then I went to high school, and I was on dance team, and we had dance camp, and I was like, oh, it's going to be fun like band camp was, right? But it's not. Dance camp is like, it's like going into the boot camp. It's horrible.
Yeah, band kids, really cool. You know, as far as like, there's no real expectations of having to do much of anything else.
Yeah, except play your instrument.
Yeah, and that's only like, 2-3 hours a day, tops. Yeah. And after that, it's just video games and hanging out and playing pool in the student rec center and just being, kind of a cool, like I look at it now, I think band kids are cooler than, the jocks and stuff.
Yeah, I definitely do.
Yeah, and I think it's changed. I think with kids, it's like not as cool to be a jock anymore. It's more cool to kind of be a well-rounded musician and
like kind of nerdy and like have some weird pop culture knowledge of things that are
absolutely nerd is cool.
Yeah, I hope so because that's all I am. So
yeah, well, you're kind of too late for it. So
I know I missed that. That's the story of my life, Josh. I missed that boat. Like in 10 years, having a craft beer podcast is going to be fucking badass.
And you'll be on to what?
And I'll be in retirement home. I don't know.
Now, okay, let me ask you a question. What? It's just you and me, right? Right now.
Right now, it's just you and me. Yes.
So, what are y'all doing with She's Crafty? What's the deal?
So actually this is probably the first time that I'm talking about it, but...
Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's talk about it. No, we have to, like, at some point address this, right?
Yeah.
So, to my great sadness, and I'm being genuine when I say this, Brandy has chosen to not be part of the podcast anymore, and it's, like, not a reflection on her and I's relationship or how she feels about the podcast. We're still like really great friends and we talk every day and I just saw her this morning. But podcasts are a lot of work. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of scheduling, especially when you have two people because we have to work with two schedules and a lot of editing and a lot of social media. And She's Crafty, thankfully, and to in an exciting way is getting a little bit popular. And we have a lot of great opportunities that are coming our way that would be silly for us not to take, not to be part of. And Brandy has a really great full life. And aside from the podcast, she also has a full-time job and she does other really awesome, funny comedy projects and stuff. And she just couldn't fit it into her life anymore.
Yeah.
So it's just me.
Yeah. Having a co-host is hard. When we started Interbrews, it was going to be, it was before it was even called Interbrews. We had 5 guys. It was myself and Curtis and Greg and Perry and Malinsky. And there may be a recording somewhere with all of us on there. I think we got 2 in at some point. Mm-hmm. We found out real quick, one, there was the technology side of it. This was, 5.5 years ago, or whatever, when we were trying to get it started. And so I didn't know anything about recorders or anything like that. So I got this big, PC I'm trying to record to. So it's like at my house, which I don't live anywhere near them. I'm an hour away from all of those guys in different directions. And so we met at my house the one time we could make it all work. And then, after that, it was just like, this ain't going to work. Yeah, it was a big mess. Because one, you don't, starting out, you're not sure what your plan's going to be a lot of the time. And then, schedules, and then you throw in family and throw in all the other stuff. That's tough.
It is tough. And I don't fault her for the decision that she made. The only part of it is that I miss her. And it's because it's fun to do with somebody that you love and that you get along with. And we had really great chemistry and, that was fun. And I'm sure at some point she'll come back and maybe guest host or maybe she'll come back and co-host. I don't know. But for now, it's just Catherine. And we'll see how that goes. I don't know what's going to happen. I've never, before I started this podcast with Brandy has done entertainment things before. And so she was better prepared for, how to do this. I never had. This is the first thing I've ever done. So hopefully I can hold my own. That's really what I'm worried about is whether or not I can hold my own. But we'll see what happens.
Well, I think creatively and intellectually, I think you'll be fine. I think you guys are good as a team, but I'm going to use the old Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant analogy, which I know you're very familiar with, being a huge NBA fan.
Right.
They both tend to get injured a lot. and so they've had to have playing time where they're both the main player for the Thunder, Oklahoma City Thunder, which I knew you knew. And that time apart made them both stronger, and I think better. And then they have to come back together, once they're both healthy and get reacclimated to playing together in kind of this new, more prominent role that each. But it's an interesting thing, how life evolves and the podcast will evolve, and I think talent wise and stuff. I'm excited to see what you're going to do because you've been on my podcast, so I know that you're smart and witty, and you love beer, and you're plugged into San Antonio, and I mean it's all you love them all, so it's a good combination.
Thank
which
you.
I'm excited to hear. Yeah.
Thanks, Josh. That's so nice. I hope that I meet the expectations and I don't fall on my face.
Well, even if you do, it'll be fun to watch. So
well, that's true too. That's entertainment is entertainment, right?
Right.
The only part, the part about it that has made me the most self-conscious or the most insecure is that when you have a partner and you go and do live events, you're more confident when you have somebody with you. And I had to do the Busted Sandal Beer Week event, and I was by myself. And getting started was really hard because I've never had to do, because we have a PA system and I'm talking to a crowd and I'm by myself and I don't have Brandy to you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That part is something that and that's just going to take a little bit of time for me to get over that, but it was scary.
Yeah, there's you have to create your own momentum when you're by yourself.
Yeah,
and that's a way different kind of deal than when you have other people pushing with you.
Yeah.
And you have to keep all that other stuff. There's so much that goes into it you have to keep in mind. And it's just one of those things where it just takes a little while to get used to, but you'll be fine.
Yeah, I think it'll be all right. I hope so. And
So,
I'll just get drunk.
There you go. Speaking of, what are you? Let's get to know you a little bit, like your beer taste.
Oh, you want to get to know my beer tastes?
I do, because I hear you guys together. We've talked. I know you love cider,
right?
From our Christmas episode, as you'll hear. And
I think I love cider because it's a throwback to my bad palate from when I was younger.
Oh, okay, cool.
You know what I mean? Because cider's like juice. It's not it's not like an alcoholic beverage, which is when you're a teenage girl or whatever, and you're I don't want to drink anything that tastes boozy. I want Strawberry Hill.
True.
Because that tastes like a juice box.
Right, sweet cider.
Yeah.
Because I've gotten to where I love dry ciders. I don't know if you've tried anything from Argus, which is San Antonio, Dripping Springs area. It's right out by Jester King. If you're familiar with where Jester King is,
I know. I have not tried that though.
It's they kind of take the same approach as Jester King. They use all local yeast, so whatever's in the air ferments their their ciders and blends and that sort of thing.
Nice. New Broadfields Brewing Company also uses that method. Yeah,
Kelly's going to be on our podcast coming up.
Oh, nice. Yeah. He's awesome.
He was on y'all's show, and I think that's when we started, talking. I was like, yeah, I heard. So
yeah, you got to try that. Just a side note, you got to try. I know I said this already, but that pickle fucker is the craziest thing ever. It tastes like pickle juice. It's so nuts.
Really?
Yes.
I love pickle juice. I love pickles, sour pickles.
It's funny because at first I was I just wanted to try it just because the name was pickle fucker. I mean, come on, right? And then I drank it, and I was it's surprisingly good. And I don't know if I could session some pickle fucker, okay? One, I'm a lady, right? So
true.
Let's save that for the second date. But two, I could see where it could maybe give me some acid reflux or something.
Yeah.
But one pickle fucker with some barbecue or a cheeseburger, I think would go really nicely.
Oh, barbecue, because you think about it, you go to your barbecue spot, get some brisket, and what do you have on the side? You have some onions,
pickles.
You have some jalapeno, and you have pickles.
Yeah.
Little sour pickles.
Nice. Okay, so you're into some dry ciders right now, right?
Yeah. Argus, I would say everybody try that. Austin East Ciders has some good stuff. Leprechaun, which I think the company is based here, but they contract, not brew it, but just make it, cider it, whatever.
Okay.
Out of somewhere else. But I think Texas ciders are coming up. The only problem we have is that we're not really able to grow apples here in Texas that well.
Oh, yeah.
But, they're making it work. And so I would recommend both of the, all three of those, Leprechaun, Austin East Ciders, and Argus, especially if you're into dry. Good stuff.
So, ciders are delicious. I actually have not, see, this is the thing is ever since we started this podcast, I really don't order that many ciders because I'm always interested to try, something, something I haven't had before that's, more beery.
Yeah.
But I used to really love stouts, and I feel like I'm kind of moving away from that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, but I used to really love a coffee stout, but it's got to be good, you know? Like,
Yeah.
it's got to be easy to drink, and if it's not easy to drink, then it just feels like I'm drinking, it's just too thick for me, or something. I don't know what the word is.
Right.
What else do I really love? You know, who doesn't love, like, a really nice, sessionable, like, pale ale or something? It's really nice when you're on the river or hanging out at a barbecue or something, I guess.
What's the last beer you drank?
The last beer I drank was the Freetail Berliner because that's my favorite beer.
Well, there you go. So
And
that's
if they have it somewhere, I always order it.
so. It seems like you are into. If you liked the pickle effort.
Uh-huh.
My kids are right around the corner.
Oh, you can't say it. That's right. Sorry.
Right. I don't want them to have a skewed view. Keep pickles in their place, girl.
Keep pickles where they belong.
In the jar.
In the packet is where they belong.
Right. Exactly. So the pickle effort and the Berliner, those are both sour. So it seems like myself, and those dry ciders, especially the Argus, those are sour in that sour realm.
But isn't that funny? Because like I've always been a real beer drinker, and when I drink those, to me it doesn't feel like I'm drinking beer.
Perhaps, but historically, those are more what people have always had.
Really?
Everything was sour prior to our, Louis
Well, that makes
Pasteur.
sense. Yeah.
Or at least it would become sour pretty quick.
Right.
Yeah.
Fascinating, Josh.
Yeah, a little history there.
A little beer education.
Yeah. What have you gotten to know more about, like, when you started the podcast?
Right.
Did you drink beer much at all, and what was your knowledge of beer
So
overall?
when I started the podcast, I was a beer drinker. Yes. I don't drink wine because it makes me, it's my mother right now, but it gives me a headache and it makes me sleepy. Okay.
Yeah.
So my mom doesn't drink at all, but like these are her excuses for not drinking, which are super lame. But so I've never been a wine drinker, and I don't like very boozy alcoholic like cocktails. It's just not my thing. It doesn't taste good to me. And I don't like being drunk.
What?
Yeah, I mean, I like being tipsy. I don't like being drunk, and hard liquor tends to hit me all at one time.
I was
instead
saying,
of like,
you're really good at it.
no, I'm good at drinking, and I'm good at like being tipsy, but I'm not good. Like I'm not a bad drunk. I'll just fall asleep or something. But that's not, at my age, passing out places is not a good idea. But yeah, so I've always been a beer drinker, but before the podcast, I drink like real ale, Fireman's 4. Like if I went somewhere that I felt like I was going to be judged if I didn't order something, like, you know what I mean, before the podcast. But normally, like, honestly, like, I didn't care. Lone Star, because it's $2 a can. PBR, like, Bud Light, if that's all they had. Dos Equis Dressed, I was like, damn, I'm fucking fancy now. It's got a lemon wedge in it or a lime wedge. And then it wasn't until I didn't even know, like, honestly, when I was drinking those beers before, I didn't even know that they were different kinds of beer. Mm-hmm. I was just drinking beer. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't even dawn on me to think that, like, oh, this is a different style of beer than this beer is, or like, you know, or that I had no idea there were so many different styles, and then things within the styles and different ways that it can taste, and some that do taste more like wine or champagne, and more, like, you know, I didn't know you could put coffee in them and bacon and like all this craziness. I didn't know how they were made, any of that. But now, you know, once you open that door, you can't ever go back.
It's true. I've never heard of an ex-craft beer drinker.
No, why would you go from drinking good quality beer to like, oh, I'll take a Bud Ice Light? True.
Yeah, I've never heard of anybody that really, you know, maybe I've heard of the occasional can't drink anymore because I'm 85.
Right.
Or something along those lines. But yeah, I've never heard of an ex-craft beer drinker. Some people linger on that in-between stage a little longer than others. You know, like they'll still go back to the shitty beer.
Yeah.
And still talk about the craft beer and kind of bounce back and forth. But eventually, eventually you get that whole switch over. Especially if there's any time between, you know, your last bad beer, you know, and then a couple months go by, and then you go back and try it again, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah. No, it doesn't work. And now, like, because my boyfriend, Jason, he's a huge craft beer. That's kind of like how we met, was that he was really, really into craft beer, and I was doing this podcast.
And super dreamy. Super dreamy. You're talking about me, right? Super dreamy. I'm talking about Jason.
like we go places, and if they don't have a good selection of local craft beer, like we get upset. Like, how could you even open an establishment in San Antonio and not represent the beer community, you know?
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. You have too many good breweries there, and it's not, San Antonio's not so big. I mean, it's gotten a lot bigger in the last few years, but it's not so big that, I don't know, that you can hide.
You can't tap into that.
Yeah.
And it's so accessible, and they want their beer in your establishment. It's not like you have to like fight for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, people of San Antonio.
But Houston's probably been in the craft beer scene longer than we have.
I don't. You know, it's weird. Like lately, it's hard to even look back. Like when we started the podcast, or when I started, or when Interbrews started, I think there was 5 breweries, and 3 of them had just opened.
Okay.
So like No Label and Carbach and I don't know who that was after that. Maybe Buffalo Bayou. Whoever came up right at Carbach and No Label are like 5 years? Maybe 5 years. And then, people start popping up after that. But, it was now it's almost, it's not impossible to keep up with all the breweries, but it's hard to keep up with everybody's new beers and all the events and everything. I mean, there's no way you could make it to all of that stuff. And that was kind of my goal going into this podcast at first, to be kind of like on the scene all the time. And it's just there's no way. There's absolutely no way. We got too much going on.
You can't do it. And I even in San Antonio where we don't have as much as other places. Mm-hmm. Just beer week. We just had San Antonio beer week. It fucking exhausted me. I was like, I don't know how people do this, because I have kids. Like, I can't just be like, hey, peace out. Mommy's got to go drink some beer with people that you don't know. It's really
Mom's got to go work.
And then, there are some events where, I can take the kids, but do I really want the kids to be there if, everybody's drunk? And, you know what I mean? You have to start thinking about it, because my daughter's 14, and, is that really, is that healthy for me to have her in these environments where all these people are, do I want to normalize this kind of drinking with her? I don't know.
Yeah. I've got 3 daughters, and so it's been one of those things where I grew up in a dry county, and it was just basically just don't drink. Right. And when I moved to Houston when I was 21, it's like, wait a minute. There's a lot more people that drink than don't drink. Right. Arkansas is kind of a weird place with all the dry counties. It's like more dry counties than not. And it's that and Mississippi are the only states that do that. And I think Arkansas's got them beat. But anyway, when I have kids, it's like, you know what? I just want to teach them to drink responsibly. And so when I homebrew, they're out there with me throwing hops in, seeing where it comes from.
They can see how it's made. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've made beer boring, I think. It's like, hey, watch this. I showed them the Crafting a Nation or whatever. There's a documentary it's on Netflix now, and they covered Austin. And for what, they put Scott and Freetail in Austin. They just kind of lumped them into the Austin deal, but they're on there. So I think it's it's either the 12 or the 22-minute mark. There's a 2 in there. Just fast forward to that part. It's
I gotta check it out. I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it's on Netflix right now, and I think it came out in 2009. I mean, but it's already 2009. It's already kind of it's dated. Even some of the problems that the people had starting up breweries and that sort of thing have changed. But everything's just changed so fast. But that's the thing, is I'm just trying to show them that historically everybody did this, and this is how you do it. You don't do it this way, the way they mark it. And I point all that stuff, and I've made it boring. I think that's kind of the
that's probably really good. I kind of have done that with pregnancy.
You made pregnancy boring?
Yeah, no, I just made it so horrific that hopefully it never happens. The She's Crafty podcast has only one mission, and that is to dominate this planet with a love of craft beer and comedy. You can help us do that by going to iTunes and rating, reviewing, and subscribing to the She's Crafty podcast. The more people that do that, the higher our rankings will get in iTunes, and the more people will listen to us. The more people that listen to us, the more badass fucking episodes we can put out every week. So go to iTunes and rate, review, and subscribe to the She's Crafty podcast. That's really been my goal. I don't know why, because I was not a teenage mother, okay? I have a 14-year-old daughter, and I look a little younger than I am, so people assume that, I'm not her mom. But I was 22 when she was born, okay? Which is still young, but I was not a teenager. I was a legal adult. Yeah. But I've just been terrified, and she's such a good kid. She really, really is a good kid. She's not doing anything bad, but I'm just terrified of, teenage pregnancy. I don't know why. And so
Yeah.
I like have talked to her about the reproductive like system and what real pregnancy and childbirth is like so much. She just can't stand me anymore.
That's my wife Kelly has taken kind of the same approach. She's normalized, the whole like anatomy and everything.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And like, because I feel like my mom never, even when I was pregnant, okay, I'm 22 years old and I'm pregnant, and I asked my mom, does it hurt? And she was like, no. Once you have that baby, right? And so
Right.
like, I'm in there with like a graph and like pictures, and I'm like, I'm telling you, it's the worst pain you've ever felt in your life. And this is what happens, and this is where it goes, and this is what happens. And yeah. And then don't forget the afterbirth. Yeah, it's important, right? So maybe I should do the same thing with drinking.
Perhaps. I don't know I guess the afterbirth would be the hangover.
I think, yeah, like I feel like maybe there could be like some like hangover, like a pill that induces a hangover.
I think there is. There's pills that you can take. People that are, raging alcoholics there's medication you can take to make you, deathly, not deathly, but like violently allergic to alcohol.
That's perfect. So then I'll just give her those.
It's a quantity.
Let me ask you this. This is a terrible segue, but She's Crafty is known for bad segues.
Sure.
What podcast are you listening to right now? Other than obviously you listen to She's Crafty. Other than that, what else are you listening to?
I don't listen to near as many as I did at one point. But what I do listen to, let's see, let me pull out my list right now. I listen to you guys on the way home, typically once a week. What else do I? I'm a big fan of Adam Carolla, but I haven't listened to his podcast in a while. I tried to listen to Serial, but this latest season was just not as...
Thank you for saying that. Thank you for what you were about to say.
Yeah, no, not as entertaining.
Right? Not as intriguing as the first season. Mm-hmm. And then I thought it was me. I thought there was something wrong with me.
Yeah. No, I batch listen a lot. So, like if I go a while without listening to, say, y'all's podcast,
right,
then I'll catch back up over, a couple of days. I'll kind of get into that mode. But same thing with our friend Amanda, Great Beer Adventure. I'll batch listen to that as well. I don't know. That's basically it as far as listening. I listen to talk radio a lot, like Dave Ramsey. That's my everyday to work kind of fodder, just to pound it into my head that I don't need a credit card.
Right.
I like Craft Beer Radio. They've been around for a long time. I think they've got probably over 500 shows at this point.
Oh, nice.
But Savor, which is a food and beer big festival that's out Washington, D.C. area, they record the Savor sessions and post those as its own feed. And they've got the last 2 years up, and you can go back and listen to all of those. And those are some really cool, prominent people in the beer world talking about, like, sours and food pairing and chocolate and beer. And they did one with, like, I think just beef jerky and beer pairings and stuff like that.
Nice.
Yeah. So those are great to listen to. Beersmith, that one's kind of a boring one, but if you're a home brewer, I enjoy that one. What else do I listen to? I don't know. I listen to some, like, Tim Ferriss. I don't know if you know Tim Ferriss. I listen to him sometimes. When I'm looking for information on the podcast, Cliff Ravenscraft, he used to have a show called the Podcast Answer Man, but he's changed it to just the Cliff Ravenscraft Show. That's just a podcast about podcasting.
Nice.
So that's pretty much it, because the rest of the time I'm working on my own stuff, because we've got Interbrews, and then Rise Comrades is in the thick of it right now.
Right.
And then I'm thinking about starting this other one, which I've got a name for, but I'm not ready to pull the trigger on it just yet because all the commitment and that kind of thing.
Well, that's exciting, though, that you have something else in the works.
Yeah.
Do you find that you need to, like, feed that creative kind of part of your brain, right?
Yeah, I get really into something for a while, and then I go deep, and then when I'm done, it's just like the next day I'm done.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I've plumbed the depths of this, all I need to. I've figured it out enough, and I'm good. Like, I kind of thought I was there with Interbrews, and then I realized it was just the pace I was going at. I needed to change that up. Like when you work out, when you lift weights, like we do, right? You get to a certain point in your workout where you have to change it up because your body gets adapted. So I just had to change.
I like that. I like that theory. I'm not there yet. I'm still, I'm all the way in this.
Well, yeah. But
I might get there.
Right. And if I had just done like a homebrew podcast, or if I had just done, teaching beer kind of thing, I think there's enough of those out there. Like I just like to get to know the people in our beer community here in Houston, and whoever else happens to come along. If I can get out to Austin or San Antonio, even better. Right. But that's the thing, is like you can never fully get to know somebody over an hour conversation. So that's why it's like some of my guests have been on 3-4 times,
right?
And we've just scratched the surface, and they're just good people. That's the best part about Interbrews, is the people I go talk to are just awesome.
Yeah,
and the beer is a big bonus.
I think that's like the part of doing this that has been the most rewarding, is that like I would have never known you or James Simpson or any Scott or any of these beer people. I didn't even know there was a beer media community. Like I had no idea that any of this even existed. Yeah. And it's just been so much fun,
Yeah, and the cool thing about it is like with you, and I've just come across a couple other podcasts. Like there's one up in the Dallas area that I can't quite remember the name. I've got it on my list. Is it Brew Bloods? I think maybe they're up in Dallas. Anyway, but also here in Houston, we got 2 radio shows. We got John Denman's show, Drink of Ages, and then we've got James's show, What's on Tap Radio. Both of those guys are friends of mine. Yeah. There's way more than enough time in the week to have. We could all do 3-hour shows. And if you're that into the Houston craft beer scene, that we all cover it a little bit different way. John focuses on beer and music. James does his radio style show with the funny, goofy segments that they do and great guests. And then we do these long form conversations that talk about foot powder and beer occasionally.
Yeah, It's perfect.
And mine's been around the longest, so So
you're like the godfather of beer podcasts. A beer show.
Houston. Houston. I can't even say Texas. I believe there was one up in Dallas that has since, they stopped about the time we started, but I think they'd been around a couple years before. I say the more the merrier. If you're thinking of starting a podcast, even here in Houston, doing the same thing I'm doing, come on, because everybody's got a different personality. I don't look at anybody as competition. That's just more people at the party.
Yeah, definitely. I've been listening to this really awesome podcast called Beautiful Stories from Anonymous People.
Yeah, I saw you mention that. What is that?
It's so amazingly intriguing. So it's this comedian. His name is Chris Gethard, but he's not really, like, in the podcast itself, he's not really funny. He has this amazing gift for just asking the right pointed questions to somebody, and they just open up. Like, it's just, okay, so an anonymous person just calls into this number, right? Mm-hmm. And they're allowed to talk about anything they want to talk about at all, but they have to stay anonymous.
Okay.
And he has to stay on the phone with them for an hour. So they can say whatever they want to say, but he cannot hang up. They can hang up, but he can't for an hour, right?
Yeah.
And somehow, every single fucking podcast, Josh, I end up crying. And I'm not an emotional person.
Yeah.
But like he just somehow like he takes it from like them being like, I just want to talk about my car. My car broke down today. And by the end of the podcast, they're talking about how their fucking mom died when they were 3 years old and they were raised by their grandmother. And like it just like goes a completely different way, but it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna subscribe to that now.
Yeah, and it's inspiring. Because he's really the kind of person that tries to tell people, like, if you're not doing what you love, then you should stop everything you're doing right now and just do what you love. And you're like, whoa, I should just do what I love. I'm just going to eat and sleep all fucking day because that's what I love.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, easier said than done, but still.
Yeah, of course. But it's a nice thought. It's a good, like, I thought, like, oh, this is a good show for my daughter to listen to because she's 14 and she has she has the ability to just do what she loves because she's 14, We've covered so much in this podcast.
We've talked a little bit about beer. But,
every time we have these conversations, though, there's like 45 minutes of bullshit and then 5 minutes of beer.
Yeah. If I worried about what the people listening to my podcast, thought, which I mean, I do, but just nobody, I don't actively ask people to, for feedback or anything like that. Right, I guess if somebody has a strong enough feeling, they'll let me know. But if people are listening, then I guess they're enjoying, the conversation and as it goes.
And
so
that's,
if they wanted more beer talk.
All we could assume, right, is that they're enjoying it because they keep tuning back in.
Yeah, there's more people that are listening. So I'm just going to, until somebody says, hey, we need more beer talk. I'm like, well, do you?
Right.
I mean, didn't we just talk? Yeah, like I'll call you. We can talk beer real quick.
Yeah.
But I just feel like you can only talk about what you like and what you're drinking
for so long.
Yeah, and I love to nerd out. Like this first episode with Southern Star, episode 1. Is it 114?
Who do you have on that? Who's your guest for that? Is it?
It's Dave
Okay.
Fugeron. He's the founder, and then Heather Hamilton is. Well,
Nice.
she was sales, but now she's their head of marketing. Mostly.
We had Blake. We had Blake on our show. Who?
Yeah, he was. I had him on when I
amazing.
went to Austin. Yeah, he's a good
Yeah,
guy.
and
Good
he's
people.
like he is a wealth of knowledge. That guy.
Mhm.
And also,
Very
I
knowledgeable.
find his southern accent to be comforting and warm.
Yeah,
and,
he's like audio cornbread.
I want to eat an apple pie while he's talking to me.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. He's
No, like he
he's
was.
like the soul food of southern accents.
Yes, and he's got an epic beard, or at least he
And
did.
he
He
has
shaved
an
it.
epic beard, and you don't expect for that accent to come out of his mouth for some reason. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love you so much.
Now, okay, quick poll
Okay.
between the two of us. Who have we had on both shows? Who's done double duty? So Blake, and you were at, like when I interviewed Blake, he was with me at Witchcraft, and you've been to Witchcraft, right?
I have
in
been to
Austin?
Witchcraft. We didn't record there, but I have been there, yes.
Okay, and you've talked to Jody.
I don't know who I talked to because that was at the very beginning of the podcast. Brandy was really the one that was kind of like the steward of that ship, and I think that when we went, I don't think the owner was there. It was just some people working who were very knowledgeable and wonderful.
Well, shout out to Jody Reyes at Witchcraft in Austin. Love that store. Like if you're looking
it's
to like,
amazing.
the model for a beer store, stop by
Yes,
there
and
and kind of check out.
Do you guys have anything like that in Houston?
Not like that. Yeah, not really.
Yeah, we don't either. And I always think like, why? And what would it take to make that happen? I wonder.
I looked into it because I'm always looking to switch jobs.
Yeah.
And do something more me centric.
Yeah.
Or that speaks to me, not all about me, like the Josh Stewart show at the store.
Right.
But just something that I would enjoy doing more day to day. But we talked about that a little bit. I mean, Jody and I. But it's same thing with any business. You got the overhead and the
Right, of
capital,
course.
working capital.
Well, any brick and mortar store is going to be a pain in the ass, I would think.
Yeah, but just the way the fact that he puts his beers together style wise instead of brewery wise
Right.
makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
I just hello to anybody. Just put all your styles together.
Yeah, and it's so homey and it doesn't feel intimidating as you would think. Like I thought before we went, I was like, oh, this is going to be really. I'm not going to be able to navigate this. It's going to feel like beer snobby, is what I thought before I got there. And then once I got there, I was like, no, it's like very welcoming and it's not intimidating at all.
Yeah, the way they have it set up is, and they've got a second location. I don't know if it's open yet, but they're working on it.
Nice.
Good for them.
Okay, so let's see. Have you had Ranger Creek on?
We have not.
Okay. Like we mostly right now we've had. Let's see. I'm trying to think of who we've had. We had the guy.
Is it just Blake?
I think it's just Blake at this point because if you had Aaron from Victory on,
No.
okay, because we're mostly just San Antonio. So we've had Ranger Creek. We've had.
Well,
West
okay. Now,
Savannah.
technically, you put the third hour of our recording from Texas Homebrewers as an episode.
I did.
She's
It is an
correct.
episode.
So,
And surprisingly, I'm sorry, not surprisingly, we both had Caleb. That's right. And we both had James Simpson on our shows.
and James Carl.
And James Carlisle.
Was he on your-
That episode? I don't know why. Maybe because it's like a Transformer Megatron episode where everybody came together and joined forces. Is like our
Okay, time out.
It's like our second. I just used the wrong Transformer terms. Is what you're
Yeah,
calling it now.
it would be, you could say Voltron if you want to
Voltron,
go
that's what I
old
was
school,
looking
or Power Rangers, but
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So,
I apologize to the
continue.
Transformer nerds. Anyway, that's like our second most downloaded episode, which is crazy.
yeah, well, a lot of people putting it on social, I guess. With
Yeah,
platforms.
I guess so, maybe. Yeah,
Yeah, I think it comes
pretty
down to
exciting.
that.
Spurs Jesus
Yeah.
being number one, of course.
You can't really compete with the Spurs Jesus, so
And that was our very first episode.
yeah. So y'all peaked early.
That's right. We came out guns blazing, and then we were like,
Well, that was good.
let's tone it down.
Let's mail it in from
just
here.
a minute. Let's take a step back.
Yeah. What is your goal ultimately with She's Crap? Do you have one? You just want
I
to keep
think
doing
my
it
goal
while it's cool?
ultimately is I would really like to just like build this brand, and spread the word of craft beer, which I think that once people know they won't go back. And because I also do Barbacoa Apparel, which is a local company, we're homegrown, and we do it because we love our city, because San Antonio is the best place on earth to live. I think it's important. I heard that, by the way. I think it's important for people to support local, because this is where, this money goes right back into people's families, right? Like, you can meet these people and shake their hands, and what's more, like these breweries, I know them. Like, you don't know, when you drink a Dos Equis, you don't know the person that made that beer, right? You've never seen their kids. You don't know anything about their life. When I drink a Branch Line beer, I know Paul and Jason. I've met their wives. I know their kids. Like, it's different, and I think that that's important, an important thing to support and build. And this is a great platform to be able to talk about it, and also add in my silly, stuff that I like to, talk about my vagina or areolas or whatever. And
we try to talk about those things on our show as well.
Can I just tell you?
Yours specifically.
This is so funny because, so for the listeners that don't know, we have a little Facebook group. It's called the Great Pint Society, and it's like craft beer, podcasting, media people, and then Caleb from Texian's in there, and like a couple other people that do beer stuff. And last night we were having I felt a really important, serious conversation about fisting. Right? I felt like we were getting somewhere with this issue, right? And then out of nowhere, Amanda from Great Beer Adventures like, sorry I didn't miss anything. Hope you guys are okay in the floods. I guess this conversation is over.
Yeah. She reached her limit, I guess.
She reached it. Amanda's like I think of her like the mama bear of the group. And she's like, okay.
Yeah, it does kind of go off the rails.
Yeah.
A bit.
It does. That's because y'all are gross.
You started it.
No, I don't. That's not true.
It is true. No. I've got the transcript right here. I'll post it.
It's always you guys, and then I'm appalled and disgusted, and I have to turn off the notifications.
Never. You get it started, maybe jump out, and then jump back in. Something vile.
That's my favorite thing to do, is just like drop something vile in the middle of a conversation and then disappear.
Yeah. That's, we know where you're coming from.
It makes me happy. Okay, speaking of things that are vile, let's talk about your cooking for just a second. You said that you had a recipe, right?
Well, not so much. Well, I guess you could call it a recipe, but more so a discovery with, what was the Freetail beer? I should have looked it up.
The Pinata Protest, right?
Yeah, it's got the ancho chili powder and the lime. Mm-hmm. And now you're of Latina descent. Hispanic, whatever you going. Mm-hmm. Mexican? Is it Mexican?
Mexican.
I know, but is it specifically?
I don't like to call myself Mexican because I'm not from Mexico. And
are your people from Mexico?
I find it offensive. I don't find it offensive, but I've had other people tell me that it's offensive to call myself a Mexican. But yes.
If you weren't born in Mexico.
My great-grandfather was a Aztec Indian from Mexico. I have other grandparents that came from Mexico, but I also have family that came from Germany.
Okay, so speaking to the Mexican heritage in your lineage, what is the candy that has has the ancho chili and the lemon?
It's called chamoy.
Chamoy. Okay, had a piece of that one time. Okay. A coworker of mine who is either from Mexico or right on the border. His family's from Mexico, and he goes there a lot because of family. Brought some of that to work. I got to try it. I can say I'm a big fan of lemon and that sort of thing, and I'm a big fan of ancho chili powder and using that in cooking, which are just dried jalapenos or whatever, or smoked jalapeno, whatever it is. Not a fan of the combination in a sweet cold variation.
Okay.
Right?
Have you ever had? Let me. Do they? They probably do not. But have you ever had a raspa? And more specifically, they make one, it's called a Piccadilly, or there's a couple other, but they put chamoy and chili powder and a pickle and all kinds of stuff on it. It's like a snow cone.
Never had one. Would be willing to try one.
I would suggest that if you try to find a place in Houston maybe that makes them, but I doubt it because I can't even find breakfast tacos in Houston.
What? Well, you're not looking hard enough.
Last time when I went to be on the show, all we could find were kolaches. Maybe because we were in Katy, I don't know. And let me tell you something: Taco Cabana is not a breakfast taco. Okay.
No, I agree.
Okay.
Now Rudy's has pretty good breakfast tacos.
Rudy's the barbecue place?
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially when they put the...
This is exactly what I mean.
Oh, you don't count that as a... What?
No,
chorizo?
Yes. Did they have chorizo at Rudy's?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I think so.
Okay, well, maybe
I don't
next
know, I
time.
was chopped beef.
We have Rudy's here. We have Rudy's here, and like, this is not a place that I would go for breakfast tacos in San Antonio. But I can only find kolaches. And in Houston, kolaches are such a huge thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me.
You ever had a boudin kolache?
A what? No.
You know what boudin is?
No.
You're not close enough to Louisiana. It's the sausage with the rice and
yeah.
the rice and everything, and when you grill it, on a charcoal grill.
Yum.
But anyway, they put that in a kolache. Oh my god, it's ridiculous.
Nice. So you had some chamoy at work, and you put it on something cold. I'm tired of your.
Well, no, I tried. It's like a piece of candy, hard candy, right?
Right.
Wasn't not my ideal. Like not a flavor combination that I'd ever want to go back to.
Okay.
So anyway, that's kind of going into that beer, right? That's kind of where what the aim is, right?
Right.
It's kind of that
to make it taste like that, yeah.
Right. So I got it thinking, okay, maybe this is a little different, but it was very similar. The anchos have kind of an earthy kind of deal going on, which I like on meat, but I don't necessarily like in and of itself alone or in a beer. I got through the beer, probably wouldn't just have one of those again. I would probably go with the rye wit or the, any of the, I don't know, there's a ton of the Freetail beers that I love just for drinking. But this one, so pork roast, like a pork shoulder, even pork loin, sear it with, I put ancho, salt and pepper, and then some Creole seasoning as well. Sear it with that, kind of lock in the flavor, then put it in the slow cooker, and 2 or 3 of those beers.
Nice.
12, 13 hours later, oh my gosh, it was so good.
Really? I actually have one of those beers in my refrigerator right now, and I'm super excited because tonight I'm taking my equipment over to Big Hops at the Bridge, and I get to sit down with Pinata Protest, and we're going to have a conversation about the beer and about their tour. I know. I'm really excited about it.
What time is that recording?
So that recording I'm going to do at 8 p.m. And I'm really excited, and I'm a little bit nervous about it, Josh, to be honest, because I don't know if you know anything about Pinata Protest. Have you ever seen any of their music videos?
Scott's mentioned them one or two of the times on this podcast. It's basically like it's a fusion of funk and Tejano, or not funk, punk and Tejano, right? And they're like the coolest motherfuckers I've ever seen in my life. Like, just rocking out. Their music videos are badass. They're like huge here in San Antonio. I've never met them before because I'm not cool. Okay, I'm a mom. Like, I don't hang out with rockers. But they want to be on the show, so I'm gonna go meet them at 8 p.m. I don't know what I'm gonna wear or what I'm gonna say or anything, but I'm hoping it goes well. I was thinking I might play a little game with them. I don't know what. You should play Name That Tune. I don't know. That's or not.
Okay, thank you, Josh. Womp womp. I don't know.
No.
I was texting Jason, my boyfriend, and my brother last night, and I was like, I'm not cool enough for this interview. I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow. I have no idea.
Let them handle the cool. They've got enough cool.
Yeah.
You just got to let the cool flow through.
That's a good idea. Yeah, you're
See,
right.
just what you just did. Just ask the question and step back and let them be cool.
And then let them just do all the talking, right? And then all my brother cared about was what Barbacoa apparel shirts we were going to give them.
Yeah, there you go. Are they going to play on the show? Are they going to play anything? Like an acoustic set?
I don't think I have the right equipment for them to do that, because they use like a accordion, and they've got a whole thing. Like it's crazy.
Could they do an acoustic set?
I don't know. When we hang up on this phone call, I want you to go Google Pinata Protest and listen to their music. Watch their music video.
Okay.
They have people moshing and crowd surfing and smashing accordions in their music videos.
I love them already.
Right? It's crazy. It's just crazy. And they're a perfect representation of our city, which is like this really great Tejano Mexican flavor with like this up and coming sort of hipstery punkish vibe. Like, it's just perfect. It's perfect music for our city. But and I heard that they've got big things coming up, and they're about to go on a big tour, which is super exciting.
Oh, that's cool. Very cool.
I know.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I got an idea, but I'll wait till after this is a pretty epic idea, but I'll wait till after we we hit that.
Oh,
red
to tell
button.
me? Oh, I love it. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell them about your pork shoulder.
Yeah. Okay.
And hopefully,
now, if you had game, you would have started it 3 hours ago and taken some with you. That would have been cool.
Throw
it on some tortillas.
You didn't tell me until right now, so
That's true. That's true.
You put it in tortillas? You use it as taco or no?
I would have if I weren't going all low carb.
Oh, you're going low carb. Well, you could do that with corn.
No, I mean I go like almost no carbs.
Oh, I see.
So it was one of those things where.
So ladylike of you.
Yeah, is it?
I mean, I don't know. You're counting carbs all the time? I mean, I guess you're married,
no, I just don't.
Right? Like I feel like
I just don't eat them.
No, oh, that's true.
I don't count them. I just don't eat them.
Yeah. Like I feel like if I was out with my boyfriend and he was like, "Oh, I'm doing low carb," I'd be like, "What the fuck?" We're not.
That just means I eat a steak and not
the tortilla
rice
and not the rice.
I could eat some beans, right?
The beans have carbs in them, though, right?
They're more of a slow carb thing. That's a whole Tim Ferriss thing. That's a whole nother podcast. But yeah.
Oh my God, you're really into the science of this.
Yeah. I can nerd. That's one of those things I nerd. Like before I got into beer, it was fitness and all that mess.
Really?
That's where I nerded out. Yeah.
Wow, it's interesting that you would transition from fitness to beer consuming.
Well, the beer consuming is not just the consuming; it's also the brewing and the history of the science and everything to it as well. But that's not nearly as entertaining as just the talking while drinking it.
Right.
So,
have you done a lot of? Do you find that you've gotten drunk on a lot of your shows?
Full on drunk? No, actually, I've kind of put in systems to handle that because we typically record before I have to be at work.
Right.
And so there's checks and balances. There's been a couple of times where it slipped past us, like when we went to Griffin Meadery in Willis.
Okay.
Mead will sneak up on you like a ninja and slit your throat without you even knowing it.
Yeah.
And it's delicious and you can't taste any alcohol at all. And that one, it was close to having to call into work. Most of the time I'm having to hustle too much. That's the one thing you'll find being by yourself. Is you're setting up, you're breaking down, you're worried with all the logistics, and so it's like you get one or two beers just to kind of catch you back up to, bring your heart rate down just enough to get through the interview.
Yeah.
So that's typically it's kind of built in for that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I realized right away because I was not a craft beer drinker. Like I said before, I started this podcast. I didn't realize that I was like one is like two, right? One craft beer is like two, whatever it was I was drinking before. And the first couple of episodes, I wasn't prepared for how much it was going to hit me 30 minutes in to the episode. They're like, oh, I should not. So now I know when I go into a taping, I always eat. And if I haven't eaten, I take food with me. And I don't drink before we start recording. I only drink what's like we're tasting during the recording. Because I just know better now than I did before.
Yeah, that's
a more responsible drinker, this podcast.
It's true. And one thing I found out is so I had a group of guys that we tried to start with. Then I went solo. That was kind of the first transition. And then I started bringing some more people in to kind of take care of some other logistic kind of stuff. And now I got 3 guys that help me out from time to time. Chris is our new videographer guy. We're going to start doing we're recording with video all of our podcasts that we've done over the last couple months. Yeah, and I mean, it's like, we've spent all this time in the TV industry, which is what I do for a living currently, and have for the last 16 years or whatever, however long it's been. But, so why not use that? So we've been doing some video stuff, so some visual things coming from Interbrews. But with all that, having to herd everybody together, typically they get to relax and have more beers, but it's just, when you're the leader and you're running it, there's just not enough time.
Yeah, and you don't want to be a professional. I felt like I don't want to be all drunky when I'm like talking to owners of breweries and brewers and stuff,
I would say that just happens to be a bonus of it, I guess. But for the most part, because I feel like I'm more on my game, like one or up to 2 beers.
Yeah.
And then after that, just whatever. But
I noticed that because we play games with the audience. And the first couple times, I couldn't remember the score, and I was like, "Oh, yeah. Catherine needs to stop drinking right now because I'm just going to give out prizes to everybody because I don't know what's happening."
Yeah, there's certain places that we go where Southern Star is a good example. Like every time we've gone out to Southern Star, and I think Dave knows this going in. Like the rest of his day's shot because he's like hanging out, having beers or whatever. And by the time we get done recording all the stuff we're recording, they're like, well, there's no point doing any more work today. So let's just let's go get more drinks,
Yeah.
So but then I have to go to work. So I'm like, I'm glad I get to facilitate that because when we were there, it was Chris and TD Mike and Schomburg's day off. And so they got to hang out. The other guys, they got to hang out. And so they were just hanging out all day, And the last time we were there before that, they all went like smoke cigars and had margaritas and stuff.
Nice.
Again, I go off to work. Yeah. Well, yeah, for them.
Funny. All right, so let's tell our listeners where they can find Interbrews and what you have coming up.
Okay. Well, coming up, just more quality podcasts because we have awesome guests on our show. You can go back and find Catherine's episode for our Christmas episode coming up in a week or so. We're going to be at Firkenfest, Houston Firkenfest. That's April 30th. I know typically, if you download this episode after the 30th, you can go back and listen to all the interviews we're going to do out there. Last year, 2015's Firkenfest, which is a small, intimate, craft beer festival. I mean, I think they cap it at 400 people or something like that. Maybe even less than that. It takes place in the park right next to St. Arnold Brewery.
Nice.
Here in Houston. It's one-off beers that, Firkins, which are, cask conditioned typically and have other flavors. Like last year, New Republic out of College Station, Dean. I don't know if you know Dean Brundage, but good guys out of College Station. They had a sriracha. They had a beer they put sriracha in. Blake and Heather from Lone Pint, I'm name dropping here. They put habaneros in Yellow Rose. I'm not sure if you've had Yellow Rose from Lone Pine. It's all the rage.
But I hear every time because there's like a San Antonio craft beer Facebook group, and people are always talking about Yellow Rose all the time.
It's a fantastic beer, and a lot of people know it. It's kind of the it beer in this area, I guess, right now.
Yeah.
As far as available all the time beers, not like a Divine Reserve or a Bishop's Barrel or some one-off kind of deal.
Right.
But it's fantastic. But they put habanero in the cask, and so the mosaic hops that they use very citrusy and play really well with habaneros, and there was a little heat to it, but not that much. So that was one. Of course, Alan from Brigadoon, Alan Ward, he had his Black Plague, which is his Russian Imperial Stout that was conditioned in bourbon barrels and all kinds of stuff. It was, just way over the top. Buffalo Bayou had a blackberry Russian Imperial Stout. Their Lenin's Revenge with aged on blackberries. And all these are just that one day, and then they're gone. And that's the only place you get to try them. And so we set up shop and just get to talk to everybody. Lots of, cool guys out there. All my friends from all the different breweries are out there. So you can listen to those. We'll do some shorter interviews from there. And then we're all over social, all over streaming all the time. If you love Texas and love craft beer and love Texas craft beer and want to know more about it, that's where Interbrews comes in. And we have fun doing it because we love it. So.
And it's a great show.
Well, thanks. I like it, but that's because I love to hear them talk.
Have a voice for radio.
Thanks. Some people say I have a face for radio.
I wouldn't take it that far. I don't think your face shouldn't be for anything.
Oh, okay, cool. Thanks.
But your voice, on the other hand,
was
made.
Anyway.
It was made for radio and podcasting.
Yeah. Oh, and also, I'll give a quick little plug. If anybody in your audience, because there are always crossovers, if you watch the show The Americans,
okay,
one of the guys I originally started Interbrews with was Greg Duplant. I made him take the ball on Rise Comrades, which is another Stewed Productions podcast. And anyway, it's a fan show for the show The Americans, probably the best show on TV right now.
Oh.
That's actually still on.
Okay.
We're in season 4. Some of the best writing, the tie-ins to the 80s Cold War history and everything. It's just, I don't know if you've ever watched it, Catherine.
I haven't.
If you're looking for something good to watch.
Maybe I will.
First 3 seasons, available on Amazon Prime Video if you've got Amazon Prime.
I do.
Which, there you go. So you know how awesome it is, 2-day shipping and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Which, if you click through the Amazon link on Interbrews website, blah, blah, blah. We don't really promote that,
right.
but, money. But anyway, those first 3 seasons, definitely worth watching if you like. It's got the family drama because you want me to I'll set up the premise real quick. It's a family, they're a couple, they're Russians, they're Russian spies. And they send them over as secret agents to America, and then they set up as an American family but working for the Soviets. And this all takes place, it starts in 1980, I guess it's 81 or 82 when they first start the series. We're in 83 now. I'm not sure where they jumped ahead. But anyway, so they have kids that were born in America, and as far as the kids know, everything is fine. They're Americans. And so it's just all of that. There's the spy drama, the family drama, excellent writing, multiple layers because, they're secret agents, so they have to take on the characters in the show have to take on different characters. And it's just well written. It's just great TV. Anyway, and we do a podcast.
Nice. Well, I might check it out. I do have to tell you though that Game of Thrones is starting on Sunday, so I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how much I can fit in because I don't know if you know this, but I do watch Game of Thrones. You do, yes. So when you
who doesn't?
Well, when you watch
everybody
Game of
does.
So it's not just watching Game of Thrones. Like you have to then go and formulate your own theories and what might happen, and then you have to research those things and see if they are based off of anything or could this possibly be what's going to happen next. And you have to have the conversations with people. You have to make memes about it. It's a whole thing.
The memes are the most important part.
The memes are the most important part, of course. And I'm super lucky because I happen to have met somebody who is a bigger Game of Thrones nerd than I am. And this is our first season together.
Okay. Well,
so I'm about to get knee deep in it.
Yeah. That's one of those shows where you really have to watch the episodes more than once,
Oh yeah. I'm going to have to probably this week I'm going to go back and rewatch last season.
How deep do you read the books?
Well, okay, this is the thing. I have all the books, and I would like to read them, except that I'm 37 years old. And once I start reading, I fucking fall asleep every time. So I can't get past, the first 4 pages. I'm not even lying. And I've thought, maybe instead of, maybe I'm just at an age now where, reading is too laborious for me, right? Maybe I should I should audiobook it.
I was going to say, for somebody that makes audio content, I was going to ask if you'd ever heard of these things called audiobooks.
I have, and it's probably what I need to do, except that I am such a podcast addict that, I don't know if I want to forfeit my podcasting time to listen to a book about a show, or not about a show, because obviously the show's about the books, but, to listen to stuff that I've already seen. I don't know. Although I know that it's going to give me a different perspective because there's stuff that happens in the books that's not happening in the shows, and, it's taking different turns or whatever.
Yeah.
Have you read the books?
Yeah, I haven't. No.
Okay.
But what you just said tells me I don't need to. Yes, but I will. Can I recommend one?
Yeah,
beer book?
For sure.
It is by Stephen Mansfield, I believe, is the author's name. Searching for God in Guinness. The Search for God in Guinness is the name of the book, and it's all about the Guinness family and the legacy that they left over in Ireland and all the good that they did, and the beer was just one little piece of it. And fascinating history, especially if you're religious at all. I love the historical connection between beer and the Christian faith, and there's a lot of it.
Sounds fascinating.
Yeah. If you love beer and God, which I do.
Which you do. You love beer and God. My priest loves beer and God too, so probably
there you go.
That.
Yeah.
Awesome.
See, there you go. But a great book. Stephen Mansfield. And he has a podcast, I think. So you can just listen to the episode about that book.
Of course he does, because everybody has a podcast now.
That's
right?
True. That's true.
I think even on this beautiful Stories by Anonymous People podcast, where anonymous people call in, every single person that calls in tells them that they have a podcast. And I'm like, I feel so unoriginal now because everybody's got a fucking podcast.
It's true. It's been they've blown up. They're fun.
Yeah, they are. Well, it's fun because you can do whatever the hell you want to, and you don't nobody has to vet you or hire you. You can just do it yourself.
Yeah, and all the ones I've done have been all over the map. None of them have been even close.
Yeah.
To any of the other ones I've done. So that's cool.
Well, Josh Stewart and drunk Josh Simpson, thank you so much for being on another episode of She's Crafty. Thank you so much, man.
Well, thank you. Keep up the good work with what you're doing, because goodness knows San Antonio needs. I love San Antonio is a fine place. Yeah, just let me say something to your listeners, people of She's Crafty listening audience. I appreciate that you listen to this episode of the podcast and to She's Crafty all the time. This is a worthy show to listen to. Pat yourself on the back. You're doing a good thing by listening to Catherine and She's Crafty and supporting the San Antonio beer market and Texas, the general greater Texas craft beer market. So keep doing what you're doing. You're the true hero here. You with your earbuds in your ear right now. Keep doing that. Thank you.
I like it. Yes, thank you. Thank you for your nuts.
Yeah, and subscribe to Interbrews podcast.
And subscribe to Interbrews. You don't want to miss it. Well, because you're funny too. You say funny shit all the time.
Oh yeah, not indicative of this potential interview.
By the way, Scott, surprisingly, he's a witty guy.
He is. We had talked about him starting his own podcast, and I think he came to the conclusion that he's got a big beer empire to run there in San Antonio. But if he ever got some free time, he would be a shoo-in to have a great podcast. So.
Yeah, I agree. He's a great personality, and I'm gonna try to use him as much as possible.
Yeah,
I'm gonna exploit his personality. Is what I'm saying.
You should.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Most definitely.
You should just frack it for all it's worth.
Just frack it for all it's worth. That's right.
Frack his personality.
All right, buddy. Thank you so much. That's it for another episode. I hope you have fucking enjoyed it. Do me a favor, go to Twitter and Instagram and follow us at She's Crafty Pod. Go to our Facebook page, She's Crafty Podcast, and like that shit. Be sure to follow us there. Also, if you like funny blogs and you want to catch up on all your favorite She's Crafty episodes and you want to buy some fucking awesome and hilarious craft beer merchandise, go to our website, shescraftypodcast.com. Peace out, beer nuts.
Shut up and sit down.